think we're it. Open the doors to heaven, fellas. Thank you, Chris. Oh, let me get that. Biscayne Bay in the video right there. First. Sir. Look at all this deliciousness right here. This is heaven. Oh. Look at all this.
Yeah, Snapchat's appropriate. Take pictures, whatever you guys want. My name is Chris. I'm head brewer here at Biscayne Bay Brewing Company. And
Good job.
Great
job.
Good job, man. Happy to welcome you guys here. Today we're doing an event for our Roble. It's our barrel aged Scotch ale this year. It's aged in brandy barrels. Have you guys tried it yet?
Yes.
Yes. Delicious.
This year it's aged in brandy barrels. We aged it for about 2.5 months. Then after, what we do with those barrels is that we add our Buenas Noches Imperial Stout. So in about 2-3 months, you guys, I'm sure you guys are going to be back again to
Definitely
try that. It's a really good beer. I like it a lot. But okay, so the Roble is our barrel-aged version of our McDaddy Scotch Ale. Scotch Ale, basically what it is, it's a very malty English Scottish style beer. And what we do is we do what's called a smash. A smash is a single hop, single malt, single hop beer. We use Golden Promise malt, which is from Simpson's Malting Company, which is a European malting company, and Fuggles hops, which are an English hop, which we've been using that recipe since we started doing the Roble, and it's been getting better every year. It's great. We love being able to do this beer in a rotating barrels. That means every year we do one kind of different barrel. The first year was Strand Hand whiskey. Last year was Woodford Reserve Double Oak bourbon barrels. And now this year was these brandy barrels. Yeah, any questions before I start the tour? Yes, no, maybe so.
Any questions?
I have one question. What inspired you to get into this field, this wonderful field of brewing beer?
I was in college. I started as a law student, and I didn't really like it, so I went over to hospitality, and I wanted to do culinary, but I didn't want to work in the kitchen. It's not my thing. So I found beverage management, which is more like working the beverage section of a hotel, learning about beer, learning about wine, all that. And then from there, since I like to cook, I started brewing. I found out you could brew your own beer, so I started brewing at home. Started working at a home brew store. Then moved over to a class at FIU. I helped teach a class for a few semesters, and then I started working at a different brewery, and then came here. I've been here for almost 3 years now.
Pretty cool. You graduated from FIU Hospitality Management?
Yes.
Cheers. A little older.
Can you describe the taste of the beer in 5 words or less?
Taste of beer in 5 words or less. Malty, hoppy, bubbly, moist, bitter.
English language.
Wait, it's impossible to say that.
That's a
and not
direct
laugh.
quote.
Thank you for that.
It's impossible to say moist and not laugh at it. Moist.
But yeah,
Moist.
so yeah, any questions before I run you guys through the process? Cool. Awesome. All right, follow me.
Okay, come on.
Well done.
I every time I was like,
Why not?
Cheers, everybody. Look at this. No, imagine if you had the space in your home for this much beer.
I'll never leave.
I wouldn't. Cheers.
Cheers.
I probably would have a pool table. I would probably get rid of these two and put a pool table back there. You should put a pool table back there, Will.
Okay, ready? Blue cheers.
Why are you more excited than you are?
I've been here all day.
He came up with a day in the life of a hops question.
Oh, really? That was a good question.
Thank you. I thought it was too, but she didn't think crushed.
I guess they didn't execute it properly. I guess not.
Alright, so this is where the brewing process starts. This is where we keep our grain. We use malted barley, sometimes malted wheat, and we do a bunch of different blends of different roasted, kilned, and unroasted grains to make all our beers. Basically what we do the day before we start brewing is we go into here and we put about 3 sacks in here at a time to crush it. It turns it into what's called grist. It's just the exposed grain husk, the exposed grain, the grain is broken up and you have an easy, I'm trying to find the word for it, an easy method for the yeast to get to the sugars of the grain. What we do after is move it in through this is called an auger. It's a big coil in here that's powered by a motor that moves it into what's called a grist case. In here we have about 1,200 to 1,300 pounds of grain at any given time. It holds about 1,500. There's some batches that we do that we have to leave some grain for the next day to start milling because we use too much because it's such a big beer. And it's fun being able to use a bunch of different types of grain from all around the world to make a bunch of crazy different beers, from our Saison, where we use mostly German and Belgian malts, to our Buenos Noches Imperial Stout, which has a literal cacophony of malts. It's just so many different malts that we use to get that complex flavor, compared to this, which is just one malt. It's just Golden Promise, which is really nice flavor that you get in this beer. Any questions?
So if you want to do one kind of beer, you start mixing the grains here?
Yeah, that's good for one batch of beer.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we usually do 2 batches a day. So once we're going on with one batch, we'll already mill into this one. Alright, let's go out.
Chris may be a Panther fan, but still a
2016.
Bruins fan.
2016, yeah. My brother graduated
Hello, Will.
1989 or something. Yeah, I think it was like 9 years before he graduated. Yeah. I was born when he graduated was me.
I take it these are all empty.
Yeah, these are all empty bottles.
Now, which beer is going into these bottles right here?
So basically what we put into these beers are 3 core beers right now that we send out to market. We have about 7? Yeah, we have 7 core beers, right? Yeah, I always forget. I always think it's 6. But it's 7. We have 7 core beers that we do for the tap room and for the market in kegs. But we really only send out 3 core beers in bottles, and our colada, but our colada is only in-house. Right now what we do in bottles is our Kolsch, our Saison, and our Miami Pale Ale. Our Pale Ale is by far our best seller. It sells about, it's about 51% of our production compared to all our other beers. So if you guys are at Publix, so grab yourself a Pale Ale.
If I ever see it at Publix, I'll definitely grab it.
Yeah.
If I ever see it at Publix, I'll
We're
definitely
in
pick
every
up that.
Publix from something Indian River County to Key West, and slowly moving to the West Coast. So we're getting around in South Florida.
What about in Broward?
In Broward, we're all over Broward. In Total Wines,
thank
Publix,
God.
Milam's Market, ABC Liquors, all that.
Thank God for places like Total Wine.
Yep. So, all right, let me continue to run you through the process. So once it's already milled in here, we start going through this auger right there, same as the auger that was in the grain room, over to our kettle. Now, what's different about this system compared to other systems is that people usually mill into their mash tun, because that's where you're already have all you're going to put your grain in to start extracting the sugars, converting the starches into sugars, and then filtering just the liquid from the grain into the kettle. What we do here, we mash into our boil kettle because we have a big propeller inside the kettle. So that allows us to be able to do very even mixes of the grain, along with being able to do step temperature infusions of the grain. So we can start at lower temperature and then slowly bring it up to other temperatures to increase our efficiency, and to also do traditional style mashes for something like a Hefeweizen or a Lighthouse, or even our Doppelbock, which we do a 3-step mash infusion for it. which for like a lighthouse beer too. But once we mash into here, we move over to our lauter tun. Once it's in the lauter tun, it sits in there for about an hour. That's where it converts those starches that the grain has into sugars, into single bonded sugars. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Single bonded sugars, which means it's easier for the yeast to actually eat it, because yeast can't eat starches, and they also can't eat what's called dextrins. It's these long chain molecules of sugar. There's only certain types of yeast that can eat that, and that's for wild beers, Brettanomyces, and Pediococcus, stuff that you only really see in your funky beers. But we leave it in here for an hour so that it converts those starches into sugars, and that it starts to gain color. Once it's done there, and it's 60 minutes, then we start filtering that false bottom in the mash tun. Just the liquid into the kettle. Once it's in the kettle, we leave it anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. A longer boil. Huh? Boiling. Yeah, boiling. Because what we're doing in there is we're boiling the beer, we're moving oxygen from the beer, we're sanitizing the beer, the pre-beer, and we're adding hops to it. And if you add hops at different intervals, let's say earlier in your boil, then you're going to pull more bitterness. If you add it later, you're pulling aroma and flavor. Once it's done for about an hour, that's the usual time for beers being boiled. We move over to our whirlpool. This is basically a holding vessel while we can start the second batch, because we usually do 30 barrel batches. This is a 15 barrel system. So that means it's 496 gallons. Once we're in our holding cell, or our holding vessel, we spin it really quick. That helps get all the solutions out of all the solids out of solution. Sorry, all the solids out of solution. And then we start transferring it from here over to the fermenters. This is what's called a heat exchanger. Basically, what it does, it has two pipes that cross parallel to each other, just touching, just the pipes. One is very, very cold water, and one's a very, very hot water. With that, what it does, the cold water going at about 40 some degrees, and the hot water going at about 180 degrees, exchange heat, basically. And the wort starts coming out around 60 degrees, and this hot water is coming out about 120 degrees, and back into our hot liquor tank right here, so we can reuse it for the next batch. So we're really, really efficient with how we use our water here. Once it's moving through here, it starts going over to the fermenters with one of the hoses that you see on the fermenters. One batch of beer, which is 6 hours of work, is this: 496 gallons, 115 barrel fermenter. Then what we usually do, which is double batches, 30 barrel batches, goes into the recipe. You can see we have 9, 8, we have 8. We have 8 fermenters, and we just got these on the end over there about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks ago. So we're looking to really expand in our production, looking to really distribute over to the west coast of Florida. And we're growing a lot. The bottles are keeping us busy. We're looking to bottle like 2 to 3 times a week. But yeah, these are basically 12 to 13 hours of work. So a little bit over 1,000 gallons. And any questions so far? Yes, no, maybe so. Where do I add the alcohol? Okay, so where the alcohol is produced is once I get that chilled wort from the vessel over to here, then we pitch yeast. Yeast is a single cell fungus that what it does, it eats sugars and oxygen to reproduce, to make a lot of itself, and then once it eats all the oxygen, it starts an anaerobic process called fermentation. Once it starts fermentation, what it's doing, it starts eating sugars and pooping out CO2 alcohol. So yeah, that's fermentation. It takes anywhere about 3 to 7 days, depending on the beer. With Saison being probably one of our fastest, because with temperature control, what you get, higher temperature, you get faster fermentations and different flavors. And if you control the fermentation stall a little bit more with a colder temperature, and you pull other flavors. It all depends on the yeast strain that you use. Any questions? I started talking about yeast, so it usually gets complicated.
So what gives flavor to the beer is the grains,
the grain, the
hops,
hops, and the yeast.
and the yeast.
Sometimes even the water, depending on the style of beer you're going for. If if you're going for a Czech Pilsner, then you're gonna want Czech style water, which is, if I remember correctly, a little bit higher in calcium. So you get these flavors in the Czech Pilsner that you can't get if you brew it. So there's different little things that you can do. But the malt, blending of the different malts, the blending of different hops, and the different strains of yeast that you can use really bring every beer style together. Cool.
Yeah, don't try to trick me with that shit again. I ain't falling for it. I ain't falling for it twice in a year.
Why?
I ain't that stupid.
Alright, so once the beer is done fermenting, we crash it down to about 32 degrees, 33 degrees to get all those solids out of solution to stop the fermentation. And then move it over to one of these. There's a bright tank. That is also a bright tank. What these are basically giant kegs. There's a holding vessel for the beer. We force carbonate, which means we add CO2 to the solution, get it to a certain degree of CO2 volume that we want depending on the style. Something like the Imperial Stout or the Scotch Ale is going to have a lower carbonation compared to our Saison, to our Harbor Master Hefeweizen, that might have a higher carbonation just because of the style. And you get out these banana esters and some of these clovey allspice esters from these beers just through the carbonation. And the carbonation also helps scrub out some off flavors that might have happened in the beer. And it doesn't allow oxygen to go in, because if you get oxygen in the beer, then it starts tasting like aluminum, like metal, like I don't know if any of you have ever like smelled like freshly like cut metal, something like that. That's what it tastes like. So you don't want that.
No.
I don't want that. So
Nobody wants that.
exactly. So that's one of the reasons we carbonate. Once we're done carbonating, we either go into kegs, into 5-gallon or half barrels. And if you guys want kegs, I'm pretty sure we sell them in the front. If you have a draft system at home, so yeah, if you want kegs, just check them out. I'm not a sales guy. Once we're done carbonating, we go into kegs or we go into our bottling line. This bottling line is great. We got it from a small little company in Lincoln, Nebraska called Martin Robotics. They've been making great bottling lines for a few different breweries, and we're one of their showroom pieces. Basically, we bottle about 1,400 bottles an hour in here, so we're bottling for most of the day. We're bottling about 4 to 6 hours a day, doing about 300 cases every other day. Mostly of our pale ale. Our pale ale is just flying throughout the market. And here is really cool because we get all these great 12-ounce bottles, and if we need to switch over to 22-ounce bottles, we can do it too. Like the Roble, the Doppelbock, and the Double 9. We've had it on Bombers too. Buenas noches, we're gonna have it on Bombers. What else do we have on Bombers? Oh, Double. Did I say the Doppelbock? Strong Ale. There we go. Strong Ale. If you guys haven't tried the Strong Ale, it's one of my favorites. Definitely try it.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's the end of packaging. So any questions?
I got one question. Of all the beers you sell by the bottle, do they age well?
Yes. We have very low dissolved oxygen content in our beer, which means that we don't allow oxygen, a lot of oxygen to get in beer, which helps causes the beer to have a low shelf life. Yes. We have a very low DO content, so we have very good ageability.
They smell good. They taste terrible.
Our core beers, they're meant to be drank fresh, but you can obviously age them for a little bit if you don't want to drink all of them all at once, and they'll be fine. I just prefer my beers fresh. Just leave it in the bottle. Like once you have it in a bottle, just leave it anywhere under 70 degrees in a place in your closet or something, somewhere dark. Just forget about it for like a month.
Forget about it.
You can leave it in the fridge too. But most beers, if you're getting them in a large format, they're usually very ageable.
And do you have to put them in a certain position?
No, it's not like champagne's like method de champenois where you have to like put it in a certain way, cut off the tip of the bottle, and just nothing like that. But it's like, but you can just leave it in a dark place, in a cool place, and just check on it. I have a bunch of verticals at home going on of different year bottles. A vertical basically means you have a bottle from like 2016, 2017, 2018.
I still got a bottle,
You're aging them and
one
then
bottle
you just
left
try them and you're like, oh,
of a case. I got a maple bacon coffee porter from Maple
I do that a
Bacon
lot.
Coffee Porter February.
Bacon coffee.
but yeah,
I went to the
any
Maple
more
Bacon
questions?
Coffee
Because
Porter Fest in 2017.
it's a little bit of a
On a
mess
case,
because we've been.
I realized it was
Butane
cheaper to buy the ticket
trapped
with
in
the
a bottle.
wristband that guarantees you the case than buy an actual case.
But any more questions?
So I still got one
There
bottle
are
left.
beers that have like a second fermentation.
And it
Yes,
actually ages
fermentation
pretty
in the
well.
bottle. Yes.
It has a crisper.
Yes.
It
So
has
what
a
you
crisp.
do?
I had 2 bottles left.
The
few
beer
months
itself
ago-
is going to have the yeast already.
2017,
Unless it's a
I
style
had
that
2
requires.
bottles left.
But
And,
mostly you still have yeast and it's usually a wild
Yeah,
fermented
it means the
sometime
friends
too.
had one. And
So what they do is when
had
they're
a
bottling,
crisp-
they add some sugar.
when it
sugar
aged,
to
it had a
and the
slightly
yeast is just going to eat that up.
crisp
It's not really
finish
going to produce any more alcohol,
which is
but it's going to
a little
produce a lot of
weird for a pour, but
carbonation.
I
And a
usually
lot
don't
of different
age beer
flavors
that
because
much.
of that carbonation.
But I do have like
I
maybe
don't have a lot of experience
7,
with those styles of beer
out of
professionally, but homebrew used to do it.
16 bottles left of the Dogfish Head 120.
Yeah, you see the dregs in there.
I got 7.
Kombucha does the same thing. With kombucha, you
I
can
went out,
get
but
that SCOBY or get
some
that yeast.
stores
If you
weren't
want to get
stingy.
into
I
beer,
went to
if you take care of
Mega
it,
Wine
you
and
use it.
Liquors,
So,
the one in Coral Springs.
yeah. Any more questions? I don't know what he's talking about back
They
there,
had,
but
they had 8 bottles left. I didn't want to be a total dick, so I
Will
only
took
bought
over
7.
right there.
Left one for the guy behind the counter.
so what have you guys been
Total, right,
drinking
of course.
other than the Roble?
So I went to the one in Pembroke Pines and bought 8 bottles.
Nice. You guys tried that Hefeweizen?
I never spent more than $200 in beer in my life before. That was the first time I'd ever spent almost $300 in
I
beer in
love
my
that.
life.
That
But that beer is well worth it. It's sitting in my pantry right now.
it's a really nice
Aging.
Hefeweizen. That's just,
more than
it's not. It's very banana-y, but it still has a lot of complexity behind it. So you don't just
Pay like
focus on it. It's
$15,
very banana-y.
$16 a bottle in a bar.
And do you have the Miami Pino on draft?
Yes.
Okay.
On draft.
You want to hear
on
something funny? When Brass Tap did a release last year,
Oh, if you guys want to see the folder and see. Are we full right now?
Very nonchalant.
I almost like how, because I don't want to incriminate myself, but I was able to acquire 2 bottles.
I don't want to incriminate myself as I record. Good. You're talking about something else, like a banana flavor or something.
I was telling you, like I was telling you, come here, I have 7 bottles
Full,
left.
ready and fresh to
Going to a restaurant near you.
Look at all that. That is liquid gold right there, people. Liquid gold. Money. Straight money.
Yeah, that'll be gone in a week. Damn!
Yeah. Not every week we
Yeah. That's about it, guys.
Oh.
You guys enjoyed the tour? You like the beers?
I loved it.
We love the beers.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Will, for the lovely tour.
I don't usually promote the newsletter, get on the newsletter, because I completely forget we have one. It's my fault. But get on our newsletter because every month we do try to release a new one. Or at least try to release one of our own special releases that we've already done. Sometime this summer I'm doing a guava IPA, so you guys should definitely come and try that. I'm also doing an IPL, an India Pale Lager. Really hoppy, very crisp lager. It's really cold.
India Pale Lager.
And maybe bringing back our Fool's Gold. I don't know if anyone's ever come here and tried it.
I have not.
It's our very hoppy blonde ale, and it did a lot better. It was a really good beer, but it did a lot better than what we predicted. It just flew. It was great. So I really want to do it again and see what people think. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, get all the pictures or whatever you guys want to get in before.
Autographs.
Thank you so much.
Great tour, Chris.
For Lenny.
I'm just glad this time I wasn't dumb enough to fall for eating the hot.
Concerts in like 2 more weeks.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Like
Only if I ever get a house, I'm buying one of those types of coolers right there and filling it full of fucking beer. I'm still gonna put beer in my regular.